Firm Foundation Bitesize, lesson number 23, the corruption of the human race and the appearance of giants. Well, as a kid growing up, I used to go to the matinee with my friends every Saturday afternoon. A Saturday afternoon matinee with a double feature, lots of cartoons, and the Three Stooges. And one film that I totally enjoyed was The Amazing Colossal Man, made around 1957 by American International Films. It was about an Air Force officer who is exposed to radiation from a nuclear test, and it disrupts the cells in his body, and he starts growing, reaching the height of 60 feet. He's got a lot of time on his hands, so he walks around the casinos in Las Vegas. Of course, he can't go in to gamble or take in a show because he's too big. The Amazing Colossal Man was so successful that it was followed up a year later with The War of the Colossal Beast. And here's a bit of the movie trailers from those two films.
She's a girl who loved a man. A man who, in a flash, became a living threat to humanity. A danger so awe-inspiring that they tried to hide his existence from the world.
A 60-foot giant in the streets of Las Vegas.
Man, what happens to our world if massive, monstrous man-beasts like this invade us? Flown a captive to a West Coast metropolis in an Army cargo plane, his arrival catapults the whole city into an ocean of fear. For this colossal beast is at war with the world, our world. A world his savage instincts can only...
It appears that the Amazing Colossal Man was also a peeping Tom. Didn't see that coming. Well, I think most people have a fascination with giants. I mean, they're even in Game of Thrones. Well, believe it or not, once upon a time, there were really giants who walked the face of the earth. And that's what we'll be talking about in today's lesson. Let's begin with Genesis 6:1. Then the people began to multiply on the earth, and daughters were born to them. The sons of God saw the beautiful women and took any that they wanted as their wives. And then the Lord said, "My spirit will not put up with humans for such a long time, for they are only mortal flesh. In the future, their normal lifespan will be no more than 120 years. In those days, and for some time after, giant Nephilites lived on the earth, for whenever the sons of God had intercourse with women, they gave birth to children who became the heroes and famous warriors of ancient times." Well, here in Genesis 6, we read about the sons of God who were believed to be fallen angels, and these fallen angels or demons, they had sex with human females, and they gave birth to children. And these children were partly angelic, and they were known as mighty men or angels. It might also be that these fallen angels, which we know as demons, they left their habitation and inhabited bodies of human warriors who became the mighty ones on the earth. Another theory that's gaining popularity is that the sons of God are considered to be the godly line of Seth, while the daughters of men are the line of Cain. Thus, the sin with which they are charged is one which is common all throughout the Bible, and that is intermarriage of the chosen people of God, who are the believers, with those who are ungodly. How can these men be holy when the Bible states that only Noah was holy in Genesis 6:8? Well, keep this in mind. No one really knows, and there's a whole lot of speculation in this area, but it seems possible that the meaning of the sons of God here is that it's giants, because that's what Nephilim means in the Hebrew. Notice that there's no mention of giants here, but elsewhere in Numbers chapter 13, we read of the Nephilim being giants. And when the 10 spies were sent out by Moses to spy out the promised land of Canaan, they came back and said that the inhabitants of the land were giants, and that they, the 10 Hebrew spies, were like grasshoppers in comparison. Well, who knows? Maybe the giants in Game of Thrones are actually descendants of the Nephilim here in Genesis. Let's continue with Genesis 6, verse 5. Then the Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great on the earth, and that every intent of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. The Lord was sorry that he'd made man on the earth, and he was grieved in his heart. The Lord said, "I will blot out man whom I've created from the face of the land, from man to animals to creeping things to birds of the sky, for I am sorry that I've made them." But Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. Well, the Bible says that every inclination of the heart of man was evil, and that the wickedness of man on the earth was so great that God regretted ever creating man. God was pained in his heart. He was deeply saddened by what he saw, to the point that he even regretted ever making man. This perversion of sex and violence had filled the entire earth. So God was going to judge the earth and blot out man from off the face of the earth. But God did not do this immediately. As is his nature and character, he was patient, and he gave them all full warning. He called Enoch to be a prophet, to tell the human race that God was coming to judge and deal with all ungodliness. At the age of 65, Enoch had a son, and God gave the name for the boy Methuselah, which means when he dies, it will happen. So both Methuselah and Enoch knew that when Enoch's son Methuselah died, that God would judge the earth. If you were smart, if you're wise, you'd be watching Methuselah as he aged and became an old man, because the day that Methuselah died, God would begin to judge the earth. We know that God was patient because Methuselah lived longer than anybody else who'd ever lived, 969 years. And when Methuselah died, it began to rain heavily. Methuselah's grandson was called Noah. And the only ones saved from this worldwide flood and disaster was just one family, a preacher, his 3 boys, his 3 daughters-in-law, and his wife. They're the only ones saved. We'll look at Noah and the flood in greater detail in Bitesize Lesson 24, God Calls Noah, and Who is Really Left Behind. If you like the Firm Foundation series Bitesize, would you subscribe to it, and would you also tell a friend? Great. Thanks so much. Until next time, this is Pastor Dale saying, Shalom.